welcome to The Other Three Amigos, Las Damas, your weekly unofficial SSE Airtricity Women's Premier Division podcast with Declan McCormack, Eileen Ring and John O'Sullivan. Find us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. So sit back, put the feet up, because it's TOTAP time.
On this week's TOTAP Las Damas, we look back at the last 2 weeks in Irish women's football. We update you on all the transfer news. We also check in with all the academy games. We review this week's league action and look ahead to next weekend's cup games. The mailbox generates a Sligo Rovers discussion, and Eileen gives a league manager a new nickname. All on this week's TOTAP Las Damas, Mike Bassett. Hello and welcome to this week's TOTAP Las Damas, Season 4, Episode 18, Episode 222. It is the award-winning podcast. We are now on Patreon, and you can find us at patreon.com/TOTAP. As I ask every week, retweets are very, very important to help the pod grow. So if you could drop us a retweet, if you could even just drop us a like, that helps as well. And as we say every week, our DMs are always open. Happy to hear from anybody who wants to ask a question or have something put out there on the pod but doesn't want it to be public. So send us a DM and we will never mention your name. And I can say that has been taken advantage of this week in a big way, but we will get to that later on. Guys, as always, I'm Declan McCormack, your host, and I am joined by Eileen Ring and John O'Sullivan. Guys, we weren't here last week, so it's been 2 weeks, Eileen. Did you get up to much while you were missing?
I know, it was a glorious break, despite you trying Monday evening to rope me in for a men's podcast at late notice again, but I had a lovely week off from you.
What happens in the men's pod stays in the men's pod, Eileen. You should know that by now. John, did you enjoy your holiday?
Sorry about that, Declan, sorry. I endeavoured to do better.
It's nice to have a week off. There's still a bit going on, but it was nice just to be, not panicking about trying to remember everything on a Sunday evening.
We have been away. There has been an awful lot happen. I guess first thing we need to go back to is that marvellous night in Páirc Uí Chaoimh, Ireland 3, France 1. But really it was Cork 3, France 1. It was just really a big Cork night. Denise O'Sullivan getting the opener, a full Páirc Uí Chaoimh. It was a sight to behold, really, John, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a brilliant night. Like whatever it was, over 18,000 people inside in the park, all, cheering on the team. Denise getting the opening goal written in the stars. Just a fantastic night, and even at the end, bunch of songs that will be very familiar to the Cork public being played over the PA and everything. It was just it was a real celebration of football, and it happened in Cork, and it was fantastic. Yeah, no, it was a brilliant game and a brilliant result, but a brilliant experience as well. And look, it goes to show the value maybe of having a look outside of Tala and outside of the Aviva for games, because it was a massive success.
I think that's what I was going to ask you. Following on from the night in Páirc Uí Chaoimh and everything else, should all games now be played in Cork, or should we allow some to occasionally travel to other parts of the country?
Like, being completely biased, obviously, I think I never want us to leave Cork, but I do think Dublin will be the main base, but there's certainly a lot to be said for moving games around when the infrastructure is in other places, and you could see there's not going to be issues with crowds, and it has a knock-on effect, because I know people who went to that game who'd never go to a women's game that have said to me, can you let me know when Galway are playing Cork City, because my small one wants to go see Julianne Russell. And this is how we build our league as well, and I think it can be a huge help, but it's up to clubs to capitalise. To be fair to Galway, I think they're doing an incredible job of capitalising on it already, but that's what you want, and it's what John always says, and he's spot on in that you make the players superstars. And he said if X amount of kids down there decide when Galway are coming to Turner's Cross they're going to go because they want to see Julianne Russell, but they'll inevitably stay because it's Cork City, and they'll start idolising Cork City players, and it just has a really positive effect. So I think if you look at every other country, especially in the women's game, they move games around. No matter how successful the team is, they move games around, because that's how you build a game, and you let people see it, and that it doesn't have to be a massive ordeal for anybody to get there, travel wise, cost wise, things like that. So no, I just think it was a brilliant success, and I think it was such a success. I'd be really surprised if we don't see men's friendlies down here as well, because I said it's a brilliant venue. I know people talk about maybe issues getting in and out, but like, it's less than a 2-kilometre walk from the city. Do you know what I mean? You have the market on the way down. If you're coming from the other side, there's pubs, there's restaurants, stuff like that. So no, hopefully, as you said, I'd be really surprised if we don't see games back down there.
John, are we going to see the playoffs down there, do you think? Or will those games go back to Dublin?
I'd expect they'll go back to Dublin. To be honest, I think you've got the Georgia game, I'd imagine we'll move back to Tala, and then the Wales game, so the possibility of the Aviva. But overall, I think it's, I as much as I'd love to see it, I think they'll just go back, because obviously there's a cost as well involved in Páirc Uí Chaoimh that they probably have to factor in. But it'd be great to see it, but I think unfortunately we'll be back up in Dublin.
Unfortunately is right. Okay, while the seniors delivered in Cork, Eileen, the under-19 European Championships were held as well. We had spoken about it before it started, and we had said it was a very tall order, especially with the group that we were in. And as it turned out, Spain and Holland were both in the group and ended up in the final, which I believe Spain won. So kicked off with a 0-0 draw against Spain, then defeats Germany and Holland. But I mean, absolutely no shame in the results, and some of the performances were actually probably much better than we might have expected heading up.
I suppose, like, to be fair, overall I think it was a really good tournament. Like, as you said, like, the final was between two teams in our group, and I think that says it all. And the fact that obviously we held Spain scoreless, like Katie Keane was absolutely incredible. You'd have to look, a lot of players were really good, but I think she made the record for most saves in a game. And I think at half time in the Germany game, she'd been on the receiving end of 45 shots or something like that. So that's pretty remarkable. But like, huge credit to the squad and everyone involved there, because it said, like, even compared to the other side of the group, I know like England and France were in that, but the other two teams in that, like, would have been a lot more. I suppose maybe we might have got to see a bit more from Ireland as an attacking sense, because luckily for us, we are supporters of this league, so we get to see all these players and we know what they bring as an attacking team, and I suppose we didn't get to see that. But no one said they certainly, I think, did themselves, their clubs, their families and the league really, really proud. And their players, I think players in that squad are players we mention week in, week out here. And some of them are going to go on and have really, really big careers. Like the last under-19 squad that got to the European Championships have obviously all gone on. A lot of them are playing at a really, really high level and are such a strong basis for our current senior squad. So you'd hope to see more of that.
Yeah, John, absolutely no shame in the performances, no shame in any of the results. And it's a very good reflection on the league here at the moment, is it not?
Yeah, it is. I mean, it is a young league, but that means that players that when you go to European Championships under 19s, they're already playing senior football week in, week out. I think everyone bar one of the squad actually plays in the Women's Premier Division. And look, going back to the point, Spain won the tournament after extra time against the Netherlands. We were in an absolutely hellish group, but both Spain and Netherlands made short work of England and France in their semi-finals. Like, it's a different draw, and who knows what could have been. But look, I was lucky enough to see all the games, and I thought they were excellent. Obviously, you had to be pragmatic in how they set up, but look, it just tells such a positive story about the league here and the quality of players we have. When you look at the infrastructure, the population size, the history that women's football has in those countries that we were competing against, it was a great achievement, to be honest, and fair play to everybody involved. Yeah,
absolutely fantastic. At home, domestically, last Wednesday night we had the two Avenir All-Ireland Cup semi-finals. Galway beat Wexford on a penalty shootout, having been 2-0 up, and Wexford brought that game back to 2-2. So Shamrock Rovers went to Talca Park, beat Shelbourne 2-1, Eileen. The first time all year that Shelbourne had conceded 2 in a game. But I mean, there was a touch of Robin Hood and daylight robbery about the whole thing, really, wasn't there?
Yeah, I think there was a lot of heads being scratched in Talca Park after how they didn't win. They absolutely peppered Shamrock Rovers' goal. Now, I thought Shamrock Rovers started brilliantly. The opening 25 minutes, I thought they were excellent. But once Shelburne came into the game, they had chance after chance after chance, and not just chance, but they had sitter after sitter after sitter, and Amanda was on the end of it, or they were getting blocks in, or they were just missing. Some of the deliveries from Jess Gargan, that should be meat and drink for a striker. They're absolutely incredible deliveries, a striker's dream. And at the other side of it, I did think, and I think I said it in the group, anytime Shamrock Rovers got the ball, you kind of had the impression that they look like scoring. They are dangerous with the players they have. They're always going to be a threat. And they were probably look a little bit lucky. I think with their first goal, it probably was a handball by Leo Leary. But their second goal, the winning goal from Joy Ralph, was a brilliant, brilliant finish. But yeah, I think from Shelburne's point of view, I suppose following on from the Wexford game, that 0-0 draw, where they'd missed an awful lot of easy chances as well, there has to be concerns there. But obviously, look, if you have a centre half that can finish like Pearl Slattery, maybe just throw her up top going forward. And her quest for the golden boot, because, but I suppose from Shamrock Rovers' point of view, it was a huge win. And they're right in the mix, obviously now for their first trophy. So I think they probably, judging by their lineup, I think they obviously, I think, put that ahead of the league game with City at the weekend, in terms of obviously you have to manage those 19s players game time and stuff, and they went with, I suppose, what is more important to them, and the league is so far out of their reach that I think that was the sensible call, and it worked out for them.
Yeah, John, they'll play Galway in the final. Galway looking for back-to-back victories in this competition. As I said, 2-0 up at home to Wexford. Wexford pulled it back to 2-2, but Galway got it over the line in a penalty shootout.
Yeah, and deserved it overall, really. Wexford were playing some lovely football, in their own third and managing to press well. But Galway really had the bulk of the play and deserved to be 2-0 up when it came. Look, to pull it back to 2-2 so late on, it was a credit to them. They never stopped going. And I suppose, Rihanna Jarrett got one of them, and, it's good to see her back scoring as well. But it was an absolute nail biter then with the penalty shootout. And look, you've got young players on both sides stepping up to take penalties as well, so it's tough. But look, Galway, I think overall deserve to go through, and look, to be honest, it should be a great final. I think it's going to be an absolute dinger, possibly. And I think I said in the group at the time, probably a better final being Galway Shamrock Rovers than Wexford Shamrock Rovers. I think it's probably going to be a better one for the neutral, possibly a little bit more exciting. No disrespect to Wexford, but Galway deserved it overall, but I think having pulled it back to 2-2, Wexford will be gutted the way to lose in the penalty shootout then. Yeah,
Eileen, that final is Saturday the 17th of August, so I think it's 3 weeks' time, isn't it? The Galway were due to play Cork City that day, so all your Julianne Russell fans will have to wait for another trip to Turner's Cross, and Shamrock Rovers were due to play DLR. Both those games have been cancelled now. Finals in Tala, it's live on TG Cahir on the Saturday night. We'll preview that the week that it's coming to it. But very quickly, I do wonder if the league should play Cork City and DLR in Turner's Cross on that Saturday, seeing as they're both off. They're due to play each other in Turner's Cross. I think it's the second last game of the season, sometime like that, maybe the third last. But I do wonder if that fixture should be pulled forward, because Turner's Cross suffered a lot in the heavy rain, and you don't know in September, October what's going to happen. And I do reckon just play games when you can and remove them from the calendar and get them out of the way, but there doesn't seem to have been any thought given to it, and both games have just been called off.
Yeah, I think it just would mostly make sense for the reason you've said there in relation to Turner's Cross. I think City, did they play a game in September there, and then they were out Turner's Cross for the rest of the season? They never got back in there, and there's not, if Turner's Cross start getting the rain, I was going to say start getting the rain. If we keep getting the rain we're getting at the moment, that is going to be a case again. And obviously, I think you want your games in Turner's Cross, you want your games in the big stadiums. So yeah, for me, it probably makes sense, but I'm sure there's a method to all this madness at some point. It also means that there's a possibility that Galway have to come down to Cork in a midweek. Galway are in a title race as well. I think they already have a midweek game with Treaty maybe. So all these things kind of add up, and they affect the title race as well. And like City and DLR are two sides that, while they're not directly in the title race, they're certainly two sides that'll fancy that they can have a say in it, because they're two sides that are capable of taking points from other teams as well. But from like a Cork City fans' point of view, I'd love if it got moved, because we're a very stop-start at the moment. We're on a week, we're off a week, we're on a week, we're off a week. I think that's hard, especially when, again, bias as a City fan, like we're kind of finding a bit of form, we're in good form, and you kind of don't want to be stopping for a week. But sure, look, as I said, it is what it is.
Yeah, so look, if there's anybody in the league office listening, lads, please play that City DLR game on the 17th of August. It's makes perfect sense as far as Las Damas is concerned. Finally, transfer news. Eileen, you had said all window that Erin McLaughlin would most likely end up in England before the window shut. She has done. She's gone to Portsmouth. You also said Saoirse Noonan would end up back in the UK. She's gone to Celtic on a 3-year deal. Both good moves for the girls, you think?
Yeah, like Saoirse is one that stands out in particular. The 3-year deal, I think, is massive. Like, it's really rare to see in the women's game, and that just shows what they think of her as well. And look, I know Saoirse, she's a Celtic fan, like family are Celtic fans. So it's a massive move, but they're a massive club. Like, I mean, I never really massively bought into the whole Celtic thing personally, but like a lot of my friends are big fans, so I'd always kind of keep an eye. And like Parkhead obviously is one of these incredible stadiums in Europe, and it's where their women's team play some of their games. So like, what an incredible opportunity. And like for her family and friends, it's only a flight away as well. I ordered the small one, a Noonan 20 Celtic kit. It's en route. So and for Erin McLaughlin, I probably thought she might have went up a level, but like at the same time, I suppose it's a good move because she's going to go in. She made her debut today in a friendly. She came off the bench, and like, I suppose the big thing, and it's something I always say, is that like if you are making the move, that you're going to go play where you go. So like she can adjust to life as a professional footballer, I suppose, with a little bit of pressure off her that would come if you were at a championship club. And look, obviously Portsmouth are investing in their women's side, and it's only one step below championship in terms of the pyramid there. So yeah, I think a good move for her, because I think she'll play there, and that's important for her to develop, because it's another world. Like it's a complete other world, and you're going over and you're playing professionally, like with the best will in the world to everybody here. And I think we've some incredible talent and within the league, but it's another thing to I play at a high level, or wanting to actually live and train like an athlete. An elite athlete is another world apart, and I think that's what I suppose separates the very, very good players from the excellent players, I think.
Yeah, I was in Parkhead once. I booked a trip to Glasgow for Cork City and Rangers in Europa League, I think, wasn't it, on a Thursday night?
Oh, yeah.
And Cork City didn't beat Cork City didn't beat Progress, neither Corn in the previous round, so I ended up in Parkhead on the Wednesday night watching Celtic beat some Polish crowd in a Champions League qualifier. I honestly say it once was enough to go there. I'll be perfectly honest with you.
Why did you have to remind us of that?
Look, for God's sake, how could you lose to Progress in either corner? Anyway, we won't worry about it. We'll continue with the women's football. John, Michelle Doonan and Aoife Brophy both left DLR to join Piedmont. Good moves for the two players involved, but soul destroying for DLR, I'd imagine.
Yeah, it's look, two very good players, two very good moves from their point of view. Piedmont obviously playing Champions League football, especially for Michelle Doonan. Piedmont needed someone in that position. I think just that has that capability to lead the line and get goals for them. But yeah, for Laura Heffernan and DLR, as they were finding form and starting to kind of move through the gears a little bit, it takes a little bit of replanning now and kind of how they approach the rest of the season, because a lot of the game was built around Michelle Doonan as an outball. But look, it's the reality of the league that players are going to move when these opportunities pop up, and Piedmont and Champions League football, look, it would be very tough to turn down. And I think, look, it makes sense for Michelle Doonan as well, because I think we did speak about her possibly moving earlier in the season. And the thing there was, would she play? And I think with Piedmont she will. And that's probably one of the key things in the move.
Yeah. Just very quickly on DLR, and they didn't announce it, but they took a girl out of Shamrock Rovers under 19 squad, Shannon Hanlon-Cody, and she started up front against Shelbourne on Saturday. And I have to say, especially first half, I thought she was quite impressive. I know she was young and she was stepping in, but you could see there was quality there that would give her a chance in this league. It's just a pity that DLR didn't announce her and give her some little bit of a G up before she just appeared in the team at Talca Park on Saturday afternoon. Treaty United were another club who were making moves. They brought in Mara McCleary from Canada. Talia White and Kayla Kyle have both gone home, as has Isabella Flacchini. They also released Shauna Pearson and Fianna Bradley. Fianna Bradley has since joined Waterford, and we know that Shauna Pearson has joined Cork City under 19s, but I don't know whether that news will be out or not by the time the pod comes out, but I presume it will be. What do you make of the goings on at Treaty, Eileen? And I guess especially like Kayla Kyle and Talia White were the starting two centre backs since they came in at the start of the season. So they're two big losses straight out the door.
Yeah, big losses, and like Talia White was the captain there as well. So like she obviously was a big character and a big leader in the dressing room. Van Dalder has obviously stepped into that role. Look, I suppose that's the nature of bringing players especially from further away. Like they're a long way from home, and like other opportunities might come up or that are closer to home for them. But I suppose it's funny in a few weeks where obviously we spoke about Treaty, and there at times maybe people are questioning players, the quality of player they bring in. But like Claire Winter's gone to the Orlando Pride. Like this time last year, she was playing in the league here. Like you can't question the quality of player they're bringing in. I mean, that's an incredible. Now, I know she went and played professionally in between as well. Like when she went from Treaty in the summer window last year. But I suppose for Dominic, for Ciara, and for Treaty, like the thing with bringing in players, and I know Danielle Steer said to you in the interview she's there for long term, I think that's something that they have to aim for, because it's really hard for a club to progress as well if you have these players that are doing really well and then suddenly they're gone after 3 or 4 months. So I think that's something that I think they probably will look to address, because as I said, it happened last summer as well where they lost a couple. So I don't know what contract situations are up there, but I presume like they're going to maybe start looking at, that if you're coming in, you're there for the year, because I think it's hard. But again, like the girls they brought in, I thought did very well. They brought in a Dutch girl as well, and I thought she was excellent. She was really, really good. Probably the best player on the pitch for me, apart from Ellen Malloy in the game on Saturday. But look, as I suppose people who listen to this podcast before we were just National League will know we're big fans of Fianna Bradley, and I think her move to Waterford is brilliant for her personally, because I think it's important for her that she's playing week in, week out. She's a really, really young player with a big future, and I think Jess Lawton's probably got the best out of her as a player in the past. She's obviously a manager that Fianna is very comfortable with, and as I said, Jess knows how to get the best out of her, and I think she goes back in now. She plays 19s for the rest of the season, and hopefully then we'll see her kind of kick on at senior level next year. So I just want to wish her the best. As I said, we're big fans of her here, always have been, and I was raging that time she left City, but as I said, beyond kind of my own personal bias, I'd like to see her kick on.
Finally, John, Eileen said 2 weeks ago, just keep an eye on Becky Casson. Becky Casson was in Turner's Cross. It was something like that she said anyway, but Becky lined out for Cork City yesterday. So I'm gonna chalk that one up to Eileen again anyway. But was there any move in particular, John, that caught your eye during this window? One that really stands out? I mean, obviously Emily Corbett went to Rovers as well.
Yeah, I think the one that probably stands out really is Michelle Doonan to Piedmont. I think that's probably the one where it's probably got the potential to have the biggest impact on both sides and both teams involved in the transfer. But look, from a personal point of view, to see Becky back at Cork City, look, obviously she was brilliant for Wexford Youth for years, came to Cork City, captained the side, did so well with us. So from a personal point of view, that's my move for the window so far. But I think from put a neutral's hat on and looking at the league, I think Michelle Doonan to Piedmont is a really interesting one. But I would agree with you, Decky. I thought Helen Cody did really, really well on her debut for DLR at the weekend, and definitely one to watch. I think with games under her belt and getting used to the style of play there, she's going to do very well.
Yeah, look, and it's a nice link into the underage stuff. So seeing as Shannon and Cody just came out of the underage setups, we'll take a look at the under-17s, I guess, in the Tier 1 games this weekend. It was Shelbourne 2, Bohemians 2, Waterford 1, Cork City 1, Shamrock Rovers 1, Athlone 3, and Wexford 4, Treaty United 3. In what sounds like a belter. Just going on the scoreline, it's on its own. In the Tier 2 South, Piedmont 2, Kerry 1, Cove Ramblers 1, Bray Wanderers 1, and St. Patrick's Athletic 1, DLR 1. Then today in the under-19s, the under-19 Tier 1, Cork City beat Bohemians 3-1. Wexford beat Shamrock Rovers 4-1, and Athlone beat Shelbourne 6-2. In Tier 2 North, it was Piedmont 2, Finn Harps 4, and Dundalk 0, DLR Waves 0. And Tier 2 South, another cracker, CK United 4, Bray Wanderers 4, and Treaty United beat Cove Ramblers 5-0. I guess without being biased, obviously Lauren McCabe has generated a lot of interest in Bows under-19s, John, but it was a former Bows player, Aoife Robinson, who scored 2 late goals to win that game for Cork City. Yeah,
look, Aoife obviously isn't under 19s. She's coming back, trying to get back, been a match sharpness, been a match fitness after injury. So as you're allowed to do, using the 19s to get minutes in her belt. And yeah, look, it looks like she was well able to last the 90 because it was the 89th and the 93rd minute she got her 2 goals. So I think that's a positive for Cork City, and obviously a good result for them on the day as well, but positive in the longer run to have Robbo kind of back and playing. And look, I suppose the other thing to pick up on is that Wexford Shamrock Rovers win today. I mean, in phase 1, Shamrock Rovers and Athlone were the standout teams in their section on the phase 1. But I mean, Wexford going up to Dublin today and beating Rovers 4-1 is a standout result for them. And look, again, I think it's coming up. It's probably gone past a year now since Wexford have lost a game at under 19 level. They just keep on winning. So look, it's an interesting one to keep an eye on how long they can keep that going.
As long as they keep fishing well, trawling well, they'll do all right at the under-19s, don't worry. So look, we park all that stuff there. Saturday's fixtures, Eileen, kicked off in Talca Park, as we've alluded to already. Shelbourne 4, DLR 0. We've alluded to the players that have left DLR and how difficult it is anyway. But when you defend how they defended for the first 2 goals, Shelbourne went in at half-time 2-0 up. Game is probably over at that stage. But both goals, Pearl Slattery's opener is an unbelievable finish from her, from a centre back, to take the ball down, kind of Pirlo-like turn and strike it home. But she has so much time and space from the corner kick. And as the corner was cleared, there's 5 DLR players in that kind of half arc, but none of them move to Pearl, none of them move to pick her up, none of them are aware of what might happen off the second ball when it comes back in, and she has all the time and the space to do what she did. And then the second goal is just a disastrous goal from a defensive point of view. So I'm rambling now again, but it's so difficult to play anyway. But when you're gifting goals to Shelbourne like DLR did in that first half, you're beating yourself fundamentally, Eileen,
Yeah, and I think what's got to be extra frustrating is obviously going on from Shelbourne's previous 2 games where they're struggling to score. So if you can keep them scoreless, they're going to get frustrated because they're going to be thinking, here we go again. So look, as you said, it's incredible from Pearl. It really is. Like I believe she played a lot of her underage career as a striker, so that probably explains it, because I'm not sure too many people who have played their entire playing career at centre half would be doing that for you, to be honest. But it's an unbelievable goal. And then, as you said, like the second one, like they hand it to Noelle on a plate, and again, like she's not going to let that chance go. And then it's kind of game over, because like, as you said earlier, like I know they conceded 2 on Wednesday night, but that's the first time they have. And like DLR, in the absence of their main striker now, who has been their main striker all season, we're probably going to struggle to get 2. Like, so I thought once Pearl scored, Shelbourne were in complete control. I don't think they were spectacular by any means, but they didn't have to be. I just thought I think Owen Weirn will be really pleased with it in the manner that they went about it. It was professional, and it was about, like, I think like Kate McCarran, who gets their 4th goal, I think they're the games for her when they're 2 or 3-0 up and there's not pressure on her. I think she's a really young player, and she's scored goals for fun at underage level, but it's really, really hard putting her in to a situation where it's like 0-0 in a game and you're kind of desperate for a goal. That's a huge amount of pressure, especially considering they're a team that are competing at the very, very top. Like, whereas you'll probably get more change from her and more like a better developed player if she's kind of getting these opportunities in games that are won. And I said maybe then get your big moments from her in big games as well, instead of, I think the last few weeks there's been an awful lot of pressure on her. She's a young kid, like Rebecca Devereux's injured, Kate Mooney's not in yet, Noelle had been out the previous few games, so like they obviously were lacking heavily in that centre forward area. And like, but I said, I think Wednesday night was probably a big kick up the arse for them, of all, like, not to be disrespectful to the All-Ireland Cup, but I think if clubs are looking at the start of the season, they're going to say League, FAI Cup, All-Ireland Cup. You want to win everything you're in. But in terms of, I think, where they want to be, I think the League is number 1. So I think for them, they probably would rather have that loss in an All-Ireland Cup than in the League. Like from DLR, it's just going to take a little bit of adjusting now again, because Doonan was such a focal point for them. But again, like the two of you, I was really impressed with Shannon Cody. I thought she was excellent and like a handful. And it's not easy against that Shelbourne backline, because look, we've sang their praises, and rightly so, all season. But like she was a handful, and she's obviously not in there long. I think it's awful that she's not announced. I said this to you, and like all the clubs announcing players do better, seriously. Like all the players are swapped on FAI Connect, so everybody knows these transfers are happened. It's the women's game, no one can hold their piss anyway, so we all know everyone has moved. Just announce them, like, because like we want to build the league. So like, look at, like, for argument's sake, Cork Cities with Rory Keating and the men's today. Like, nobody knows that, and it's announced, and it's this big thing. And if that happens in the women's game, you could get the same thing if we didn't all know all of the transfers before, because they're not announced till a week or two after they're done. Like, and even like Aoife Brophy from Peamount, like, she's played a game already, and they announced her. Like, she played before the break. So like I don't know. Like, or at least, like, don't swap them on FAI Connect until you've, like, it's bananas. That's annoying me. But anyway, back to the game. Job done for Shelbourne, as I said. I think I don't think Laura Heffern will be too worried about it. I think she'll be frustrated, as you said, especially those first 2 goals, because it's essentially game over then at halftime.
Yeah. Can I just say, because you just reminded me there, Noelle Murray's suspension, the 2 suspensions recently, obviously nobody knew that she was out on Wednesday night for the Avenir Cup semi-final either against Shamrock Rovers. So I did email the league office, and I emailed who I normally emailed, and they emailed me back to say somebody else looks after the women's game. So I then sent my email again to them, and basically was just inquiring as to why the suspensions aren't part of the, as we spoke about before, aren't part of the suspension list that goes out and whatnot. And I didn't get an answer, so I followed up again on Friday saying, look, and I still haven't got an answer. So no, there's no league, there's no women's team of the week out yet either this week. So that's twice now that they haven't announced, when it was always out about 7 o'clock on a Sunday. So I'm starting to get a bit paranoid now that
there's poor communication even within the FAI, because the league account had run a thing about like players were going to be influential today and had a big clip of Noelle up, and then she was suspended. So like they don't even tell the people running their social media, and that's not fair, not person either. Like, do you know what I mean? So as you said, if it was now also Noelle, there was 3 group games. How did you manage to get suspended? Like I thought now when I played, there was one referee who shall remain nameless, and when we used to be in the dressing room, he'd be like, "Will I just book you now?" And I was like, "What?" Like you just have to keep your mouth shut. You're not going to but you know that's an impressive suspension. Like
it is, yeah. But 2 yellow cards.
What you were
3
going
games.
to say? What would?
Yeah, I was also just going to say that you need to show the Avenir All-Ireland Sports Cup the respect that it deserves. Know that Shamrock Rovers are on the verge of winning it. It is the biggest competition in the Irish sporting calendar and should be treated the same with respect.
I'm a big fan
move
of
on.
it. Big fan.
We move on. Bows 1, Sligo 0. Another goal, another assist for Sarah McKevitt, another goal for Katie Malone. Eileen again, it's that 4-4-2, got the ball in the box. McKevitt makes it to the byline, cuts it back, bang, it's knocked home. And Bows probably should have won the game by a lot more than the one that they just did win it by. They missed a lot of chances.
Yeah, I think Bows really are turning into the. Yeah, and I think Bows are turning into that team for the purists, aren't they? The Wayne Mullins 101 4-4-2, as you said, get the ball in the box. Mike Bassett. Let's recall Ken Kieran and Mike Bassett from now on. Sorry, Ken. But it's just, do you know what? It's great to see. It's different, isn't it? Like football's becoming. Every team is just a clone of the next team, and there's, you know, it's just the simplicity of their goals at times, as you said. But Sarah McKevitt, her cross is brilliant. It's a brilliant assist. And I heard Tony Magner saying he had been talking to her and interviewed her for the programme, and she gets more of a kick out of getting an assist than she would out of scoring. And she's certainly showing that, because they could have had a lot more, and she could have had a couple of more assists and a few goals on the day. But and I think the thing is that they don't score the second, and then that for it, Sligo, every time they kind of went forward, you're like, oh, maybe, do you know what I mean? Because they have players that are capable, but I just think it's so hard for Sligo at the moment. With the players they've lost an awful lot now since they were last out to the north, and obviously Emma went to Galway. I do think it's quite hard for them, but I suppose for Bows, they'll be delighted to bounce back. I thought defensively again, they deal with everything that comes at them, and it wasn't that Sligo didn't offer anything. They really did. And John's favourite, Lisa Murphy, I thought was excellent again. She is turning into one of the best centre halves in the league, isn't she? And I think she's probably underappreciated because of where she's playing, as in club wise, and the fact that they're not challenging. But she was really, really good again. I feel for Tommy Hewitt, because I said I think it's a hard job, and it kind of reminds me of Cork City a few years ago. And I don't want to get ahead of myself, because I think a change of manager at Cork City could change a lot there. But I said, you have to just kind of put your head down and kind of keep motoring and know that it will improve. Especially I know Jess Farry said that, and she was honest, it's only this year that they have senior football up there club wise, so that's you'll have hopefully a filter through from that again in the coming years for them. But it is, I think, a case of this season in particular, it's going to be really hard. And then you have the Lockrees, you have Mirren Devani, and they're all probably ambitious players themselves, and I don't think anyone, you want them to stay at Sligo, but at the same time, if players move on, you understand why they do. So it's kind of a really hard circle. As I said, I only empathise with them because I'm a Cork City fan, and I've seen this kind of rinse and repeat situation for years. But I said, yeah, I think it's really hard to see for Sligo this season where they go, but they're never at the same time, probably going into every game now, nearly you're, as a support of the league, half expecting them to lose. They never make it easy for sides either. They're not being hockeyed, they're staying in games, and they are a very, very well coached team, and you could see that. But as I said, I just think it's really, really difficult for them.
Yeah, John, and we'll deal more with Sligo Rovers later on, because we did get a DM from a Sligo Rovers supporter, and we'll come to that in the mailbox. But just very quickly, we should note as well that Yvonne Hedigan made her first start in nearly 3 years since she broke her leg in the Oscar Traynor playing for Bohs. I think it was almost 3 years ago. You know, it lasted 66 minutes. It's great to see a player come back. Now, obviously, she played for Sligo on Saturday, not for Bohs, but she broke her leg while she was playing for Bohs. It's great to see a player come back after that length of time and get back to the level that Yvonne has managed to get back to on Saturday.
Oh yeah, no, look, it's a great news story for her, for Sligo as well, but obviously particularly for her. Look, it's a long way back after a serious injury, and look, you love to see players of quality coming back into the league, and that she's had the support to, you know, recover and get back playing. So look, brilliant, and to get 66 minutes under her belt first game back after being out for that long probably will stand her massively. So a nice story for Sligo this weekend, and for Yvonne obviously herself.
Absolutely. Then headed down to Treaty, John, down to your girls, the Wexford girls. Like what you say, I mean, they went ahead. A big defensive mix up from Treaty allowed Keola Bergen to get in and get an early goal for them. And I think a penalty was the 80th minute, 81st minute, something like that. Won by Daniel Steer, tucked away by Daniel Steer. And then almost last kick of the game, Ellen Dolan, and I mean, she literally was given the freedom of Markets Field to waltz through to the edge of the area, super strike, top corner, 2-1 Wexford, game done, game over. I guess I should just mention, just before she got that winner, just before Ellen Malloy got that winner, Daniel Steer did miss a brilliant chance for Treaty, which would have probably ended the game 3-2, Wexford 1. But on such things do results turn.
Yeah, no, it was a really good game, and to be honest, from a Wexford point of view, probably was quite close in pattern to the game on Wednesday in the All-Ireland League, or All-Ireland Cup. Treaty were probably the better team, to be honest. Overall, I thought they did most of the running in the first half. They put Wexford under pressure. Jane Murren was the busier keeper. Wexford played some lovely football, you know, around the press again, and getting the ball kind of into the middle third, but didn't get forward a huge amount. I mean, like, one of their best chances in the first half was Maeve Russell making a run from right back, and she just you know, onto a through ball. But then, like, just at the start of the second half, you have like it's just a horrible mix up from Dom Foley from Tree's point of view. Like, you have two defenders and the keeper looking at each other, and Keola Bergen just doesn't give it up and flicks it in, and suddenly out of nowhere Wexford are, you know, 1-0 up and probably against the run of play. Yeah, look, it was a funny one. Danielle Steer was absolutely brilliant the whole game, to be honest, and she was beating herself up over that header that was the chance laid on. But it was a funny game. You know, Keith was the referee, and it's probably the most physical game I've seen this year. Like, no malice, no bad tackles, but just in terms of, like, you know, a lot of physicality, a lot of quite a robust game. You know, a lot of using the body, not too much in terms of, you know, nothing crossing the line, but just there was a lot left go, and it really did keep the tempo of it up. And the second half, you know, it did end up going end to end for the last 10 minutes, and both teams went for it. But look, Ellen Malloy, when she picks up the ball, you know, late on, and she can't give her that much space. Like, she picks it up, you know, maybe 40-45 yards out, and they let her get to the edge of the box to have the shot now. And look, it's what you expect of someone with her ability. Pings it into the top corner. But yeah, Wexford will be delighted, but yeah, overall, it felt like a draw possibly would have been a fair result, but Treaty certainly didn't deserve to lose it.
And yet they did, Eileen, and like they really only have themselves to blame. It's, you know, as I said, the defensive mix up for the first goal, and then, like, you just can't give a player of Ellen Malloy's quality that space and time to just basically waltz through your defensive setup and have a free shot at goal. It's madness. Like, Dominic Foley must be tearing his hair out.
He must, because I said to someone yesterday, and actually I was thinking about it last night, and I actually think it's like a correct statement. Like, in terms of performance, Treaty have probably been the most consistent side in the league. Like, they're quite good every week, but they're not getting the results. Look, as I said, I think that first goal is a calamity of errors. Like, it's such a dead ball. Kylie Murphy has actually turned away and is like expecting a goal kick. Like, it's comical stuff. And then, as you said, like with Ella Malloy, like, she'll find that space herself, so don't give it to her. Like, she's going to definitely take it if you give it to her. But like, he's got to be frustrated. I get with Steer, like, she scored 3-3, but like, look, it's a game of really small margins, and like, she misses that header, and 30 seconds later, Ellen Malloy does what she does, and it's said like it's 3 points for Wexford, but it's going to get to a point, I suppose, for Dominic and for Treaty. It doesn't matter how consistently good they are. Like, it's a results business, and no one's going to look back on this season and say Treaty played really well all season. Like, they're going to say they had X amount of points, because at times, like, performances, while at times you can say it's a really good indicator, it's a league table, and as you always say, Declan, league table doesn't lie, and they are where they are. But like, I suppose, to give them credit, I think that defensive mix-up, and there was another one, I think, in the second half, where it's just a lack of communication, and I think it's the fact that you have new signings in there and they're into the team again, and like those, it just takes a little while to click, to get to know what your keeper does, what your centre back does. I think they'll be glad they're going into an FAI Cup next week, where, not being disrespectful, but like, they have a chance, they're going to score a couple of goals, you would imagine, against a non-league side, and look to kind of push on from that. But yeah, as I said, like, they're a good side, and they're a very good side, and they perform really well, and they're great to watch, but it's not really worth much to them either at the end of the day, is it?
No, it's not at the moment anyway. Speaking of league tables don't lie, 8th place Shamrock Rovers got a probably deserved point.
Bad man.
At home. What? They are 8th. I mean, what do you want me to do? I'm not telling lies. It's like, earned a good point at home to a side, 3 places above them in the league. So they must be happy with that, a 1-1 draw, especially scoring late on. John, what did we make of it all?
Yeah, I didn't think it was a great game. I thought the first half was a bit flat, to be honest. I thought Rovers were the better team, but Unifoil did quite well the first half. I mean, anything that came her way, bar one kind of in the opening minutes, there was one kind of error that she recovered to make a very good save from. But apart from that, she was the busier keeper. Rovers played quite well. They put us under pressure, but there was no tempo to it really. I thought they were a little bit flat, and they could have gotten an awful lot more out of it. Like, against, we sat deep, let them have the ball in defence. They didn't do a great job of breaking us down. Second half was a bit more open, but overall, I just didn't think there was an awful lot of quality to the game. And to be honest, the 2 goals kind of showed that. Like, I mean, the first goal is, it only comes from Colleen Kennedy O'Connell's just being a pest and running. It's a poor ball back. Colleen latches onto it. Amanda Budden's well off her line, which is she probably doesn't need to be there, because Jess Hennessy in the end wins back control of the ball off Colleen. But then Colleen has a chance to tap it in. Jess Hennessy gets the ball, then knocks it in under pressure. It's just an awful goal. Like, from Rovers' point of view, obviously City will take it. The Rovers equaliser late on. I think City will be really unhappy with that. I think it felt like the game had been seen out. Rovers were huffing and puffing, but not really getting anything clear cut on target. And in the end, it's an absolutely brilliant delivery from Leo O'Leary, but it hits Joy Ralph's standing foot. She doesn't even know the ball's there, to be honest. It bounces in past Unifoil, but I suppose that's what a striker has to do, put themselves in the right position. It's a fantastic ball in, but someone from City has to go and attack that ball, put a head on it, get it out of there. I think overall, Rovers would have been very hard done by if they had come away with a loss. But it's a good point, I suppose, away from home from Cork City. and the run continues.
Eileen, I'm actually going to dip into the mailbox here now early because it just suits. Donnacan Noonan asks, whose fault was the goal? Amanda Budden, Jess Hennessy, or a bit of both? I think he actually misses out the main suspect, but I'll let you go.
Yeah, he does. I'm not sure what Maria Reynolds is at with the back pass. There's clearly no one there. Like, that's why Amanda's so far off her goal, because she has to come out to meet it. Do you know what? Like, and it's at the outside of the ball. It's a little bit arrogant. It's not. It's a massive bit arrogant. You're trying to pass the ball back at the outside of your boot, like a Hollywood pass. Come on, like, I mean, it's just like all her, and she's been so good the last couple of weeks. Like, then to do something like that, and it totally rattled her because she knew she knew it was wrong. I think Jess Hennessy does everything right. And I don't know, then does she think in her head, I've everything done right? And her brain switches off for a second and she scores. It certainly was a calamity of errors. I look, not because I'm biased towards her, but I'm going to leave Amanda off the most. I think she comes out and she pushes Colleen wide onto her left side, which she then... If Colleen's on her right foot, she shoots herself a lot earlier. I just think she's not comfortable taking it on her left. So I'm going to give Amanda a little bit of credit. But yeah, look, it's a calamity of errors. They're going to be pissed off because I think with Rovers they've like that back three, Hennessy, Fox and Reynolds have been really, really good. They have improved so much, and as a trio I think they've come together and kind of know each other's game, so that's why it's kind of a little bit bizarre to see. But like, Colleen's a pest, lads. She's so, like, she's incredible. And like, to be fair, Danny kind of changed the way they played. It didn't have that really high intense press from the get-go, and I think that worked because then in the moment when they're kind of not expecting her to be as alive as she is, but like, she has been incredible this season. She really has, and it's kind of one of those things that, like, she's, as a young player coming into the league, like, if you are willing to just work hard non-stop, like, you're going to get your rewards. Like, and she's proof of that this season. For me, I think a draw was a fair result, but I think sometimes, like, players maybe go under the radar, like, beyond their own club, because I certainly know she doesn't go under the radar at Shamrock Rovers, but as soon as you take Aoife Kelly out of that Shamrock Rovers side, they're quite ordinary looking. Like, she just does all that donkey work. She's that kind of in the style of like a Karen Duggan, Rachel Graham, what Kylie did down in Wexford for years, and she's absolutely outstanding. I think Kate Thompson is another one over at Galway who does it. And when she came on, I think she steadies things up a little bit for them. Again, she's not a player who's going to be putting a ball in, like, assists and goals every week, but as said, she's the player. I think the best compliment you can ever pay a player is that your team looks like a totally different side as soon as you're out at the lineup, and you know how good she is as soon as she's removed from it. So I think for City, I know Declan, they're the 8th place team in the league, but it's not easy to go to Tala for any side. We all know that, unfortunately, from years as City fans, but it's not really a great result. We've had some great nights up there, but we've had some bad nights up there as well. So I think it's a good point on the road for City, personally, especially when you bear in mind they're off the back of a massive win on the Wednesday night. Like that, I think that's what will piss Shamrock Rovers off the most, that they didn't build on that momentum that they had.
Yeah, I know you're keen to remove any blame from Amanda Budden, but can I just say that, like, Amanda was so far out of her goal, she ended up in PLR Park watching Plymouth and Athlone an hour later. Like, so, it's like,
I just want to say, actually, one other thing as well, because you spoke about Yvonne Hedigan earlier on, and brilliant to see her back, but it was brilliant to see Savannah came on as well for Savannah McCarthy, came on for Shamrock Rovers, and brilliant. She had a really tough time as well, and brilliant to see her back.
Absolutely. And I was going to give a shout out to Ella Kelly as well, who made her first senior start in the league for Shamrock Rovers, and was really, like, she looked like a really good player.
Oh God, like really good.
Top player. Anything else that came out of that game that we need to touch on? No, I mean, I was going to say, because we know, John, a couple of weeks back, the guys at the Shamrock Rovers pod, the East End pod or whatever it's called, East Stand, what I genuinely can't remember now. Tales from the East Stand, isn't it? they did up the video and whatnot, and I was doing up the video yesterday of the goal, and I was putting the Benny Hill music over it, and I was like, it's sensational when it's done. But we didn't put it out and the reason I didn't was I was going to tag them obviously and let them at it, but when you put it together, it focuses too much on Jess Hennessy and her touch to put the ball into the net, and it just felt like everything would be focused on her, and it would look like that we were having a go off her or mocking her. So didn't put it out in the end.
She was blameless in the whole thing, really. I mean, she did so well to get back and put herself. And to be honest, I think if she falls over there, there's possibly a foul against Colleen. So no, she did good.
Lads, I think you're gas, to be honest with you. Eileen wants to apportion no blame to the goalkeeper who's 35 yards off her line.
I said I didn't say apportion. She came out to get the ball, Declan. Like, what was she supposed
and John
to do?
Doesn't want to apportion any blame to the player who's kicked it into the bucket empty net from her own 6-yard line. Like, I mean,
and I actually, you know what? I changed my mind. I've changed my mind. I'm excited. I'm excited that Maria Reynolds tried to do a back pass at the outside of her boot from within the other half. I don't want to blame anyone. Yeah. It's all Colleen. It was just Colleen's brilliance.
Yeah. Well, Pest one Rovers Mill.
Yeah, according to a couple of publications after the game yesterday, it was a Colleen goal. There was no mention of Jess Hennessy of it being an OG, like, which is just incredible. Like, I mean, lads, like, I'm all for benefits of the doubt when it comes to things, but like, it's an OG, it's a clear, and you can write an article for extra time and call it a Colleen Kennedy goal if you want, but like, you're not calling anybody, like, it's an OG and there's no getting away from that. Anyway, before I get called a crank again and everybody comes looking for my head again, as I said, like, there's two ways of looking at this. If you analyse Shamrock Rovers as the 8th place team, then it's a good point for them, which they got at home against a better team, and they got an equaliser with 2 minutes to go. If you want to analyse them as being a top team whose squad is much, much better than the position they find themselves in the league, then it's an absolute shambles of a result again, with a shambles of a performance. But I leave it up to the people out there themselves what way they want to judge Shamrock Rovers, because obviously I'm not allowed to judge them going forward, because just everybody gets upset. So I'm going to stay away from judging, and everybody listening, all the toe tappers, can take their own space in it and judge it for themselves and decide whether it's a good point for Shamrock Rovers or a shambolic effort from Shamrock Rovers. I won't influence you one way or the other.
Leading the witness, Your Honour.
I'm glad me and John were able to add a bit of balance.
After all that, we all followed Amanda Budden to PLR Park to watch Peamount against Athlone. Cracking game, lads. It was a cracking game. Terrible refereeing performance, but cracking game.
Yeah, it was brilliant. Like I put into the chat, like, while we were all watching it, that I was really enjoying it, but I had no idea how we were going to sum it up. But it was brilliant. I think probably the thing that made it a little bit better than you might have anticipated was Peamount really went for it. They were aggressive. They were attacking. They were very, very lucky to be 1-0 down at half time. I thought they were slightly. If you took Maddie Gibson out of the game, Peamount were probably the better team in the first half. She was excellent, but it was a cracking game.
John no wants to take the best player on the park out of the game just to make Peamount look better.
I just said if you take her out of the game.
Have to sit down. No, that's fair. Maddie Gibson was excellent. I mean, especially first half. Look, she should have had a Stonewall penalty. I mean, like, we haven't spoken about referees at all this year, but Christ almighty, like, that's a penalty all day, every day. Like.
Yeah, but like, all we ever ask for referees, it's not that they're good, it's that they're consistent, and he was consistently bad.
Yeah, I should have been 2 penalties in the first half.
Because Peamount had the Stonewall penalty not given as well. So look, as I said, all we want is consistency, and he was consistently bad for the whole game for both sides. Yeah, like it was a really good game. Another brilliant game for TG Cahir. Like, and someone said to me, all the games at TG Cahir are great. And I'm like, that's because all the games in the league are great. Like, probably like City and Shamrock Rovers was probably the poorest game, like as quality and a spectacle wise yesterday. But all of like the other 4 games were all really, really good to watch. Yeah. I was really impressed with Peamount. I thought, like, as an attacking side, it's the first time we've seen them kind of with a bit of urgency. Like, they've been very laboured all season. Whether that's just the lack of that obvious focal point up top or not, I'm not sure. But like, to me, they look like a totally different side last night. And I think that's really important for them because, again, like they have Champions League coming up, and I was a little bit fearful that they were kind of going to go over and not do themselves justice because of the way they've been playing. But I think they're going to take huge heart from that result last night, and not just the result, but the manner of the performance. Instead, I thought they looked a threat anytime they went forward. Look, Michelle Doonan, obviously, she will take a little bit of time to settle in properly, but like, she hit the ground running. I thought she was really, really good, and she's a handful, and you know what you're going to get from her. But like, Athlone and Maddie Gibson gave a really honest interview afterwards, like, and she said, look, we lost the first game of the season, and that was kind of like a kick for them, and she's hoping maybe that last night's they use that as the same going into the last, like, there's 8 league games left. They have 8 league games left, I think she said, because I suppose Athlone hadn't, the previous few weeks probably hadn't hit the heights that we'd seen them earlier in the season, kind of stumbling over the line 1 or 2-0 or just seeing out games. We haven't really seen them as when, like, I mean, for argument's sake, when they beat Peamount in Athlone earlier, like, it was just this brilliant free-flowing open football. And of course you can't do that every week, but like, they do have the players that they have the capability there, and they're after adding a few more players. I know absolutely nothing about any of them, but I presume like they're going to offer something, or Kieran wouldn't have signed them. But it's just like, the league is just so interesting because no matter what, I know Declan thought you think Shelburne kind of home and hose now, but like, I don't, because I just think any side is like so capable of beating another one on a night, and there's an awful lot of twists and turns. And like, Galway, if they win their 2 games to hand, are only 3 points behind those 2, and like, they're all to play each other again. So it's going to be a brilliant run-in. Like, I think it's going to be a run-in like we haven't seen before, because this is the first year in the league where you can honestly say like any side like is capable of beating another side. Like, I mean, Shelburne come to Turner's Cross in the next league game, like, and they're the one side that remain for us to take points off. We never do. We always are absolutely hockeyed by them. Like, so look, maybe this is the season now that it said we can upset Shelburne, I hope.
John, the goals in this game, like, it's one of the best OGs you'll ever see. What a cracking strat. And I don't say that in a disrespectful way or anything else. Like, it's just a quality. I know that's not what he's trying to do, but like, it is a sensational strike. Eileen's right, Peamount kept themselves in the game and probably deserved their equaliser, to be fair, when it comes, but it's a foul on Brennan. I mean, like, there's just no getting away. It's a 2 hands in the back, push her over, blatant foul. And again, the referee, so there's 2 penalties and the foul for the goal that he's missed. But from the time that the equaliser was awarded, I just felt Peamount were the only one of the 2 sides who were actually going to go and win the game. I don't know if that's how you saw it at the time or not as well.
Yeah, no, I think Peamount were just getting better and better as the game went on, and I think it's probably the best game I've seen Jess Fitzgerald play in a while. I think she had a freedom there to get forward that possibly is, you know, she hasn't had for the last couple of months. But yeah, no, the longer it went on, it increasingly looked like Peamount were going to be the ones to get the goal. But yeah, look, I mean, I think the only thing you can say in the ref's defence for that goal, the first Peamount goal, is that none of the Athlone players make a fuss of it, but it's like it. Like I you know, you're watching it in real time. They're wheeling away, and in my head, I'm kind of, now obviously only for a couple of seconds, but my head is automatically going, oh, they're going to be so disappointed because that's clearly a free out. You know, you could see it in real time. 2 hands in the back, push over. I mean, I don't know how it was awarded, to be honest. Like, I mean, not taking away from the fact Peamount deserved it, but it's 100% a free kick all day long. Like, it just is. There's no other word for it.
Yeah, and I mean, it's one of those, if they don't get the first, then obviously they don't get the second, and etc. etc. And it's a huge changing point in the game. We keep saying him, obviously the referee was Lucas Keating, fellow Cork man. As I said, we haven't spoken about referees all year. Just so happened poor Lucas had a poor game last night in front of the TV cameras. The winner from Eileen, the Queen of Ireland, gets the winner. It looks like a soft goal, or it doesn't look like much of a goal, but there's a touch where she moves the ball from her left foot to her right foot before she strikes it, and it's sensational. It's just like blinking you miss it, but it just opens up so much more space for Karen Duggan to allow her to roll the ball home, and it's just that touch of class that actually gets the goal for them.
That's it, and class is permanent, isn't it? But like I actually thought she was brilliant all night at centre half. Again, I thought she did really, really well, and she's always a threat from corners. If she doesn't win the initial header, she's always there. Like for someone who would said isn't a striker, she just is in kind of the right place at the right times, and she's always alert to that breaking ball, and she scores quite a lot of goals from it as well, and always has done. But it's a very, very good finish. But as you said, I think it's probably one Athlone, like their line was the line was going nuts, but I agree with John. Like I don't think the players make enough about it. Maybe they're a little bit too honest. Like you need to be shouting and roaring. If that's one of the Dublin sides, they're shouting and roaring about it. They're getting in his head over it, and that's what should be happening. Like, not that it should be happening, but that's what the game is. In an ideal world, that doesn't happen, but it does. And if like sides do it and get an advantage from it, like it'll go against you when you're not doing it to an extent. I'm not saying be abusive or anything like that, but you have to call for stuff, because no matter what referees say, like they are influenced by these things. And as I said, there were some big calls, and if you end up losing this league by a point, like you're going to kind of go back and say, Jesus Christ, do you know what I mean? Like it can hinge on things like that. And I suppose while we haven't had to talk about referees a huge amount, there's never repercussions, and I suppose that's for me the really agitating thing with referees, not just at National League level but across the board. If referees perform poorly, like there's never a repercussion. Like he'll probably end up doing a Premier Division game next week. Like, do you know what I mean? It's just that kind of annoys me a little bit. But brilliant win for Peamount, and as I said, I think for Athlone, a little bit like the All Ireland Cup loss for Shelburne, it might be a kick up the arse at a time, and rather that than kind of further down later on in October where you're really running out of games.
Yeah, look,
can I just pick up on one thing there?
Yeah, go on.
Sorry, can I just pick up on one thing there that Eileen said about, if it was a Dublin club, they'd be roaring at the referee. I mean, you saw that live in the game. Like, no disrespect to Chloe Maloney, but I don't know how she was constantly in the referee's ear, and I know she got booked in the game. But if that push had been in the other box, Peamount side and Chloe Maloney and Niamh Burke and Karen Duggan, they're in front of the ref, not necessarily abusing him, but making him at least second guess his decision. Whereas Athlone just took it. Like it was very strange for such an obvious foul, I thought.
I had a question written down here, but you've probably dealt with it all in the last 3 minutes. But the question was basically like, do Athlone have enough streetwise? Are they streetwise enough? Do they have enough know-how to actually see out the league and win a title?
I do think they do, in that I think and we've seen them pick up points where like games where they've no right to, but it's said like in situations like that last night where you need to be that little bit mouthy, you need to be a little bit saucy, for want of a better term, like, and it's said it's part of the game, like, and it's a little bit of cuteness, and it's knowing what that line is and that you don't cross it to kind of, as I said, get in yellow or red card territory, but like question these decisions when they're so obviously against you. Said I don't think if like that shove that Dolan does happens anywhere, like on the other side, as John just said, there's big enough characters in there that will speak up, like Niamh Burke, like Chloe Maloney. Like I wrote in the group last night, I was like, she never shuts up. Like I actually called her a whinge. Sorry, Chloe, but look, as I said, I was a whinge myself on the pitch, so it's not an insult. It's the highest compliment. You have to do that, like you have to, because as I said, it's part of football, and whether we like it or we don't like to see it. And I know people are like, oh, like this is what happens, and it's awful to see. And I know Shamrock Rovers had an issue with Cork City doing it in the game in Turner's Cross, but this is football, and sides just do it, and it happens. And until such a time, and look, maybe FIFA, I think, are trying to change at the moment, but only captains can talk to the referees. But at the moment, that's not in here. So as I said, I think that little bit of kind of, as you said, a ruthless streak from Athlone and are willing to be a bit bold. Will we call it? Will you say a bit bold? They need to be a bit bolder, basically.
Yeah.
They're too nice.
Okay. Cool. That does leave Shelburne top of the league for the first time this year, I think. So it will be interesting to see whether they give it up or not going forward. Next weekend, there are no league fixtures to worry about. There are 7 cup fixtures because Athlone are already in the next round. So congratulations to them. But we do have Sligo and Terranure, Cork City, Douglas Hall, Bowes, Peamount, DLR, Whitehall are all 3 o'clock on Saturday. Shamrock Rovers versus Wexford is 4 o'clock. Treaty against Ferns is 5 o'clock. And the big one, Galway against Shelburne, is 7 o'clock in Eamon DC Park. Eileen, we won't go through them individually. Every year I ask you this and you say no. Is there any chance of an upset in any of these 7 games? Do any of the non-league sides have a genuine shot at winning a game?
I actually think Terranure, I think had they not won an Intermediate Cup today and will presumably be on the piss for the week, I would have thought Terranure would have had a good chance to beat Sligo, but alas, they did win the Intermediate Cup today, and I presume will be on the piss for the week. But that Terranure side is really, really good. They have Caroline Thorpe is in the centre of the park for them. They absolutely destroyed Douglas Hall in the semi-final of that, and I think she's brilliant. Caroline Thorpe was one of the best players in the league in her day here when she was playing. Like, she was absolutely incredible footballer. So I'm with the way Sligo are, but I do think, as said, it always comes down to the big difference at the moment is fitness. It's fitness and it's physicality. While maybe you could match a League of Ireland side for 60, 70 minutes, technically, I think they're like physicality and the levels of fitness that we see in this league that we take for granted because every team has it. Is probably what sets them aside. And as I said, look, I go to Douglas Hall games. I'm obviously a big Douglas Hall fan, although I'm not involved there. And I do, they're going to struggle against Cork City. I think they might stay with them for 20, 25 minutes. And as I said, I think City will kick on then. I think the same. I think it's who else? Treaty. Whitehall, Whitehall in the past, I think they were in the Intermediate Cup final today. They have quite a strong side as well, and they're going to DLR. But look, we know what DLR are capable of on their day as well. So you would think DLR will have too much for them. I suppose, as I said, Sligo Terranure is the one that stands out, but it depends on Terranure celebrations this weekend, I suppose. Yeah.
So, John, are we kind of saying so that the best chance of an upset in the round is Shamrock Rovers beating Wexford?
They'll never talk to you. They're never going to talk to you.
Why'd you give me that one? No, Wexford, they were briefly in 3rd place in the league there on Saturday, as predicted by me earlier in the season. And I think they're going to beat Shamrock Rovers. So I don't think that upset is coming. But I'll always side with Wexford Youths anyway, or Wexford FC. Sorry, everyone down in Wexford.
Okay, very quickly, because we are getting on in time. Eileen, Galway, Shelburne. Do Shelburne go to Galway and win, or how do you see that going?
No, I think the fact that it's in Galway, I think Galway are going to win it. I also think Galway had 600 at that All-Ireland Cup. That's on a Wednesday night. That was more than most of the attendance in the men's first division. They're doing some really good stuff up there. Look, I think Galway's probably a good play. I know now they lost an All-Ireland final today, but Galway United are doing well in the men's, they're doing well in the women's. Their women's are in Camogie All-Ireland final, they're in the football All-Ireland final, their men are in the football All-Ireland. So it's just sports mad up there at the moment, and it's also positive that's having a good knock-on effect. And as I said, to get 600 at a Wednesday night game I think that's incredible. And I think they'll have a good crowd there, and that will help them get over the line as well. But it should be a good game. It was a really interesting game in Talca Park in the league where they kind of cancelled each other out, and it was just a moment from Roman McLaughlin, but I think that day Galway will probably feel they didn't offer a huge amount going forward, and I think they'll look to rectify that. And look, with Emma Doherty in the side now, maybe you would expect to see I suppose a different Galway as an attacking threat, because I think it's only now we're going to see her come in, start, and she's had a couple of weeks to settle in, to get to know everyone training wise and stuff like that. So I'm just really looking forward to it, because I think it'll be a really, really good game.
It will. And look, this time next week we will know who the last 8 are in the FAI Cup, so something to look forward to. Right, let's go ahead.
Postman pat, and in black and white cat. The cat makes race. Early in the morning, one bag of man is yawning. Him pick up all of the post bag in a him man. A real bad man. Postman pat, and he mix up.
Alright, that's enough. We'll be here all night. Listening to it. Guys, just a couple this week. Philly Crowley wants to know who has been the best foreign player to play, or who has had the most impact in the league. Now, I thought that was going to be this season, but reading it there now, it could be any time. So, Eileen, I normally throw these ones to you first, because your in-depth knowledge is unsurpassed.
Well, if you're going to, suppose, argue the biggest impact is going to be Ciara McCormack, because of her role now with Treaty. But I suppose, like on the pitch, I suppose impact Heather O'Reilly when Shelburne signed her drew a huge amount of extra eyes to the league. But in terms of, I suppose, impact on the pitch for their total duration here, maybe Gloria Douglas that was at Shelburne that season. Do you remember her, John? She was excellent. She was an American striker. I was about to call her Gabby Douglas, the gymnast. But also from a City point of view, we had a girl, Megan Burke, who played with us in 2017, the year we won the Cup. Incredible player. Another Canadian. We love the Canadians in this league. And obviously, look, I suppose Claire Winter as well, the fact that we see what she's capable of, and like she's now a teammate of Martha at Orlando Pride. So like, but we've had some, I do think the league's had some really good players. Maggie Pearce, obviously, at Shelburne as well. But I think they can all be very hit and miss. Like, we've had some stinkers in there as well, but we won't speak of them.
Go on, give us your biggest stinker now. You have to. You opened the door.
I'll just say Cork City Football Club last year. 15 goals a season. That's all I'll say.
Right, okay. I can't even think of the name now, to be honest with you.
I can't either, that's why you said that.
Yeah, I can't. That's how little impact was made. John, do you want to throw any names in the ring for the best or most impactful foreign import?
No. I to be honest, I don't think I could come up with anyone that Eileen hasn't already come up with, to be honest. I think Heather O'Reilly's a good shout, actually, because that I know she wasn't around for long, but the focus and the attention that brought for while she was here was just mind-boggling. Like, you know, and then she was a genuine worldwide household name in women's football. And you know, I remember when they announced that she was coming, like most people's reaction was, "What? How did that happen?" You know. So yeah, it was. Yeah, I think, like, I know it was short lived, but probably Heather O'Reilly. All right, yeah, I think that's a good shout.
Okay. Right, we leave it with Heather. So she had no impact on the pitch, to be fair. Like,
she scored in the Champions League.
Very little. Like,
so you were just not a women's football fan long enough to appreciate Heather O'Reilly, I think. Like, I genuinely, I don't mind saying it now. Like, I genuinely nearly shit myself with excitement when they announced her. Like, I don't mind saying it. Like, I was like a small child. I was thrilled.
And I had just started watching the women's game because we had started doing Las Damas, and Eileen was taking me to games and I was learning, and this Heather O'Reilly thing happened, and Eileen was absolutely deluged, like this was the greatest thing ever. And that's why I say no, she had no impact on the pitch, because I remember looking at her like, okay, and I googled her and I was like, oh my god, like this is a massive signing. And then I was kind of like, she didn't do much in the league, like, you know. It's like,
exactly.
Like, I don't know, grand, like. But that could be my ignorance. I'm quite okay with that as well if it's my ignorance. Like.
Yeah, the men's equivalent was probably Carlton Palmer for signing for Dublin City. Except to the power of 100.
I need to get to this DM. How's things, folks? Just a message about seriously concerning things happening here in Sligo on the women's side of things, in my opinion. Firstly, I must say the club are doing tremendous work in the community with its men's teams and boys' academy teams producing players, and they all deserve the praise they get. However, it just feels like the women's teams are being completely forgotten about. For the last number of years, the women's under-17 and under-19 teams have been consistently pulling from the same group of players. Yes, you'll have that, but this year the problem seems to have escalated. There have been situations where players play a full 90 away to Pats or away to DLR or whoever, and then have to go away with the 19s on the Sunday away to Bray or whoever and maybe play 30 or 45 minutes there. No more than Cork City, most away games are taken by bus, which adds in itself to the fatigue. A number of 19s have pulled out of games for whatever reason, leaving them reliant on the 17s, and even some who don't get into the senior matchday squad don't seem to want to play for the 19s. Despite recruiting the best man we probably could get to replace Steve Feeney and signing some quality on paper additions, this season has been dire for the women's first team. Yes, injuries have played a problem, but I just don't know what's going on. It's great that we're promoting through the academy, but they just haven't made the step up. Injuries have played a certain part, but it just doesn't seem to be going anywhere. 2 winter signings in Crompton and McGlynn have gone back to Northern Ireland, and Eamon Doherty has jumped ship to Galway. Other clubs have moved on and gone up a level, but we've actually got worse. I'm seriously concerned, but despite the rich heritage of women's football has in the region, there won't be women's football in the showgrounds sooner rather than later. And then it follows up. I also forgot to mention a few weeks ago, the under-19s played away to Peamount. There was no 17s or 19s, but they only had 11 players. They had no goalkeeper, so had to put an outfield player in goals, despite there being at least 5 or 6 goalkeepers in the club. In an area where players are playing multiple sports, you can definitely see why they couldn't be bothered playing football. Ay caramba. I don't know who wants to go first, but I guess you can see a lot of what that person is saying coming to fruition on the pitch at the moment. Eileen?
Yeah, look, very much so. And I suppose I touched on it briefly earlier, like it's kind of maybe shades of Cork City in the past, or Cork women as they were then. My big thing is that, like, and I think, like, regardless of how things are going, it'll be very hard for Sligo to pull their women's team from the league. Like, just as in, I don't know, will the FAI necessarily allow it? I think, again, the fact that, like, that is concerning. Like, you're playing an outfield player in goal. Like, we've seen this recently. Like, I've given out about Cork City a few times for having no goalkeeper on the bench, and it's that old, you just put a Gaelic footballer in. But, like, it's summertime, so you could see, like, Cork City a few times. I'd go in and look at their team sheets. They haven't had very many subs, particularly at under 19 level, because I think it's summer and instead people are away and things like that. But, like, that person obviously is well informed, and I don't know the goings on, so I just have to take them at face value. I think, like I said earlier on, it's kind of a bit of patience. It's like the fact that they had no senior football until this year is absolutely massive. So that meant there was never, the reality is girls were playing until under 18, and then they had nowhere to go, so they naturally were going playing other sports. Now they have somewhere to go, so you would hope that filters down, and it is just about being patient, because I think things will get worse before they get better, because as I said, like, you still have some really good players there at Sligo who I think could potentially move on. I think, judging by the sound of what that person is saying, they definitely will move on, because it sounds bleak enough at the moment. But it's about having the right structures in place. As I said, the link in with the local Sligo League up there. And I know, did Jess Farry say Catherine Heidemann was very involved in setting up that league? And, like, she's come from the League of Ireland. She's a real football person, and she's really passionate about football around Sligo as well, and having someone like her as a kind of maybe a point of contact with the league will really help. And it's about, and we've seen it here in Cork, like, if there's no relationship between the league and the National League club in the area, absolutely pissing in the wind, because everyone's at each other's throats because they don't want their player going here, player going there, whatever it is. I just think it's about being patient and leaving it build. I said I'd rather judge what's on a bench for an under-19 side in September than I would during the summer, because as I said, just with holidays and things like that. But like, I think the most important thing there is, like, Sligo has a history of producing really good players, and you could see that throughout the league. And I think it's so important that there is football in the area instead. Like, they pull from Donegal as well, and the fact that there's no National League club up there at senior level. So I certainly I'd be really disappointed to see them go by the wayside, and I hope that won't happen. I think they have a very, very good manager there at their senior women's side that hopefully can kind of keep the show on the road as best he can.
John, it has to be a huge concern if you're pulling from the same pool of players for both under 17s and under 19s, and if what is said there, that there are people involved in the senior squad who don't want to or won't play under 19s when required or are needed to do so, you know.
Yeah, I think a lot more clubs than we might think have that situation where there's a significant overlap between 17s and 19s and players playing twice or part of two games in the weekend. And it's something we touched on. We've touched on it with Wexford last year, and we've touched on it with Cork City at times, where there was players that were doing that or playing a senior game on a Saturday and 19s on a Sunday. Things like not having a keeper at a game obviously shouldn't be happening, but you kind of, if you know these things are coming, you kind of have to look at the admin there, and like, if it's a holidays thing, why aren't these games getting postponed? Why isn't there some kind of work on the background to go, look, we can't play that this weekend? The main thing is players are getting, you know, games pushed out a bit. I do tend to agree with Eileen. I mean, you look, at the end of the day, you're an amateur league, reliant on young players, and this time of year, like, no matter what the sport is, no matter what the level is, holidays, you know, competing priorities, like, a lot of these players are probably wanted by multiple sports. It's going to be an issue. But yeah, look, I think what Sligo are a very young club, really, in the Women's National League. And to Eileen's point, they've had to build that from nothing, because there isn't really there hasn't been a feeder system in local football there, really. So I wouldn't be. I think the one positive thing about that DM that you read out was, like, that the recognition that Tommy Hewitt is a really good person in there, and I do think they've got a fantastic person in there. I think probably just needs a bit of patience, but you do need to have, like, even if your 17s team has to be that little bit younger, so that those 17s can play up into the 19s. Like, I know that's the situation that Cork City have had now with a couple of years, because they've advanced so many 19s eligible players into the senior side. They've actually got quite a young 19s team, and they've got quite a young 17s team because of that. So maybe cast the net a little bit wider at that, you know, players that are in that 14, 15, 16 bracket. I mean, Sligo, they had a really good. I remember watching them in the Kennedy Cup. They had a very good Kennedy Cup side. So there's players in the region. There always has been, and they'll come through. It probably just needs a little bit of patience, but also needs support from the club as well, just to make sure that the supports and the facilities are there for the players that are coming in. But yeah, I guess, look, that person obviously is closer to it and knows more about it. So yeah, it's worrying that someone who would appear to be close to the club has those concerns. All right.
Yeah, I think it's massively worrying, because the way I read it is, like, when they say there's 5 or 6 goalkeepers at the club and they didn't have, I read that as those 5 or 6 goalkeepers chose not to go to the game or not to show up, not that they were on holidays or they were unavailable. And I think maybe, like, Sligo's a rural club. It's probably the most rural club in the country, if that makes sense. And I think, like, people in Dublin that listen to this know, population density, I think, is definitely a thing here, in that, how do I explain this? If you're in Dublin, so if you're in Shell's Academy or whatnot, there's so many people and so many kids living in the area, you end up with 20 or 24 players who are committed to soccer, that's what they want to play. Whereas in an area like Sligo, because everybody is trying to do everything, they're trying to play GA and they're trying to play Camoan, they're trying to play basketball, they're trying to play soccer, they're trying to do everything because they have to keep their friends' teams going, and you don't want to leave people down and all that kind of stuff. And I think when you get out into that level of lack of population density, I think it becomes much, much harder to keep players, especially if you're going to insist that they're one sport players, which you probably are by the time you get to 17 and 19 National League level. And I don't know, I think a lot of it comes back down to lack of support from the FAI, lack of support from the league, lack of money being generated, all those things that we've spoken about a million times. But I don't like reading that DM, I don't like hearing that story, because I tend to lean towards having massive concerns about what might happen in Sligo over the next 12, 18, 24 months, to be honest.
Yeah, I suppose, look, if it's a case, like you kind of said there, that you have, and I suppose, look, it was in the DM as well, that you have senior players who maybe aren't getting senior minutes and not willing to drop down and maintain their match sharpness and their match fitness in a 19s game, that's probably one for Tommy to deal with directly, to be honest. There's probably players at every club that don't want to do that. But look, we saw it. Even look, I'll give the example of Cork City today. Heidi Mack and Clodagh Fitzgerald both haven't started a City game now in 3 or 4 weeks. Both started for the 19s today. They're both still under 19. And Aoife Robinson's working her way back from injury, trying to get match sharpness up, and she's played a full 90 with the under 19s as well. So that's. Players have to have that, level of commitment to themselves as well to make sure they're getting their minutes, they're staying sharp, and yeah. But no, it is a fair point about the population density, because I would imagine that every girl that's on the Sligo and women's under 17 team is probably, as happens in areas like you said with low population density, probably are also the best Gaelic football players or camogie players or hockey players for their local clubs as well, and that's the way it works. And look, I'm in Cashel and Tipperary. We see that at a micro level. The best soccer players are the best athletes, the best hurler or camogie players and hurlers, the best Gaelic footballers, the best hockey players. It's just the way it goes. Look, I guess in that context, yeah, maybe I was a little bit too blasé.
No, not at all. Not at all. I think we'll have to wrap it up, guys. I'd say we're done and dusted. Hopefully we won't be back here talking about the demise of Sligo Rovers Women's Football Club in the next 12 or 24 months. And as I said, I think there's a lot that can be done around grants and travel grants and all that kind of stuff for the likes of Galway, Sligo, Cork City. Everybody gets the same grant for their academy. It's not done by mileage. And, when you're going from Tala to Talca Park, it's not the same as going from Sligo to Talca Park or Cork to Talca Park, but you're fundamentally getting the same money for it. So I think there are areas that can be looked at that would allow clubs to reinvest money as well and try and make everything better. As I said, I think we're done, unless there is any more, Eileen, that you want to discuss with the toe tappers. Actually, before we go, we should just say, obviously Eileen gave her spiel a couple of weeks back about how she felt regarding Cork City and how things were going currently, and I have to say, on a personal level, I'd just like to say thank you to everybody who got in touch. I got some DMs from managers in the league, players, volunteers at other clubs, all saying, don't take any notice, keep going, we love the pod, etc, etc. So appreciate that. One manager told us I wouldn't have to interview him on the footpath outside. We could do it on the lovely club bus that would be parked up nice and warm, waiting for us to do our interviews on. So I look forward to that whenever that happens. But Eileen, I know you also got some messages of support, I suppose, if you want to put it that way, that you just wanted to acknowledge.
Yeah, just thanks to everyone who got in touch, people I know and people I think that I don't know as well. I was genuinely taken aback by it, and just a general kind of outrage that a club are expecting the top women's players in this country to stand on a footpath to be interviewed was the kind of overwhelming thing. I think it's just a really bad look for a football club, but it is what it is. And I think it's important that we got it out there, because it said this is the situation, and we're looking at a time when we're hoping to build the women's game, and we want to give players a platform. And I said, obviously, one club doesn't want to allow that happen, and I said that's fine. But just, as I said, I'd say every other club got in touch with us, and look, people from within Cork City were in touch with us as well, and we're equally disgusted by it. So I said, look, just thanks for all the messages, because it is appreciated, and sure, we'll plough on, and if we have to interview people in the middle of the road, so be it. Declan does a great interview, so it's all good.
If we keep going the way we're going, we'll be interviewing nobody, because
no one from Shamrock Rovers will talk to you. But they might talk to me in Jan, you wouldn't know.
Yeah.
We're balanced.
We're lovely.
We're balanced, Declan.
I could have a guess. Right, until next week when we come back, we'll have a look at the cup games and see if there was any upsets. I won't say it, no, I'll leave it go. Until then, adios everyone, and we will hopefully talk to you all next week.
Adios, up the hall.
Adios.
Las Damas, your weekly unofficial SSE Airtricity Women's Premier Division podcast with Declan McCormack, Eileen Ring and John O'Sullivan. Find us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram.